But you know, there's still the bad apples out there. Daly City being one of them. So
I want to make one addition that Emmeline's is considering fighting the ban as well because they received a letter. I saw a hand up in the back. Someone wanted to say something? Anything else we want to say about what happened in Oakland?
Over in the corner.
In the corner? Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know, has the actual warrant been unsealed, or does anybody have a real clue as to actually?
It has not been unsealed, so we don't know the nature of the search warrant yet, what they're looking for. The fact that the IRS was in there may give a clue that they're going to go after them perhaps financially.
I have something to say about Oakland. Like I said, I've seen it from the cell. And then 45 minutes later, the guy's shooting up a tube. The feds were at the wrong place. Instead of closing a marijuana university down, they were out of place, and it was shown. They should have been stopping that man from shooting 6 people yesterday. So you got to see that and connect that in these times. That is the real fact. No cannabis, then you're going to have violence.
awesome. Thank you, Juicy.
Thank you, Juicy. The seats up in front for the new arrivals. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yep.
You said there's a second place besides Milknet that's made stay open in Pike.
Emmeline's.
Emmeline's.
Emmeline's is on 12th Street near Howard.
A great club.
Anyone else? Okay. Michael, you're up next.
Yes. This is an article on employment. As you know, none of us have any employment rights as medical cannabis patients. And this deals with a union boss who's asking the city, a guy by the name of Larry Mazzola, who's been around for quite a few years with the unions in San Francisco. And he's asking the city to change a project agreement to allow medical marijuana users, such as the plumbers, who were denied work after a positive drug test to get jobs. A plumber with a valid medical marijuana prescription was denied work on a city project after testing positive for the drug, prompting San Francisco the union boss to demand changes to a labor agreement. Larry Mazzola, he's the business manager for the local 38 Plumbers Union. He initiated a conversation with the general manager of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, Ed Harrington, to change the language in a project labor agreement for the $4.6 billion water system improvement programs that he's going to be managing. And issues whether medical marijuana users should have certain protections when they fail drug tests. Mazzola's effort began last January after the plumber was denied work. He said that the agreement's substance abuse policy flies in the face of San Francisco values, since elected officials have time and again reaffirmed the rights of medical cannabis users. He's taking it to them. Declared the city a medical marijuana sanctuary and created a comprehensive dispensary licensing program. A special committee that addresses the labor issues will take up the matter next month. So this is in progress. This is a beginning. This is a beginning in the state of California for maybe some employment rights for people who are medical cannabis patients and need to medicate and still have a job. And still have a job. Maybe they think we're all unemployed and we don't have to work. Or we're off-feet and we don't need to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that people like this come up and stand up for us, you know, to keep our jobs. You know, from my own experience, just working out in the world, working in a lot of the trades myself, I mean, if most bosses would just admit the number of people that use cannabis anyway in the course of the week and in their lives, like the good people that have skills, that show up to work on time, to do a good job, nothing to do with it, you know? So it really should support these people publicly and and encourage more business owners to take similar public stand. It's not an easy position to take. There's a lot of enemies, a lot of fear. So it's really good. It's really good to hear that.
Thank you.
All right. I was about to say it's good that he's a labor leader because I know a lot of painters and people who deal with the plumbing system, they smell the toxins. They're just like Vietnam veterans. They need to have cannabis in order to breathe when you work around toxins and dark and low paint. You know how the toxins go in paint? They have a right to have it because they've been doing it for years. Like I used to drive a car for years on marijuana. I didn't know I could have got arrested in Alabama, been still in prison all those years. I thought that's what we was made for, driving, putting on cruise, and go on through.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right, D.A. Gascon. How many of you remember hearing the statement read from D.A. Gascon's office today?
Today?
At the rally.
University.
That's a big shift. To give you a little background, a few weeks ago, we learned about a case where a woman who was delivering for a dispensary, Mr. Nice Guy, after they had closed as a brick and mortar because they had gotten a letter to their landlord threatening asset forfeiture, they were in the transitional phase to being delivery. And they received a delivery from a vendor. This woman brought in a lot of medicine, a couple of pounds, plus concentrates, and I believe some edibles, and she got busted. The problem was, number one, was this a legitimate bust? Because the paperwork that was presented by her attorney showed that she was a legitimate member of Mr. Nice Guy Collective and was delivering medicine to the collective as a member. That's the first issue. But what got the community outraged was when the legal brief from the DA's office was filed, which stated in it that all sales of marijuana, even in dispensaries that are licensed by their local communities in the state, were illegal, that all sales were illegal. And that got our community into action. And there was a meeting that was held with a few community activists and from other policy organizations besides ASA with the district attorney, and they completely rescinded the brief. It's no longer going to be used, and they're going to write a new one that reflects current law, because the brief they filed was kind of a cut and paste patchwork from several years ago. It referred to court decisions which they stated in quotes were recently decided when in fact they were several years old. And apparently D.A. Gascon had an underling write this brief, which is normally the case, and he didn't look at it before it went out. It obviously didn't get flagged for political significance. It should have. That's a disappointment in their staff to me, that their staff couldn't recognize that this could be a real hot potato. But with a meeting with our community, we made it clear that this was unacceptable, and he rescinded the brief. He stated today, and he has stated that they're not his views on medical marijuana, and he will consider to do several of the following things. Like his predecessor, there was a liaison between the medical cannabis community and the DA's office under Kamala Harris, who's now our Attorney General. He's going to consider supporting that. Next thing, he's going to set up a working group with community activists to go over the guidelines under which they will decide whether to prosecute a person who's involved with medical marijuana. In most cases, they should not be prosecuting them at all as far as we're concerned. So hopefully we'll be able to help vet some of their procedures to make sure that people don't get unjustly accused. Those of you who were here in June may remember that Gascon spoke when he was running for re-election as San Francisco DA, and we complained about a case of a cultivator for the Green Cross, Wayne Kylo, and the next day his charges were dropped. So that was great. So these politicians do respect our power. Don't be afraid to confront them politely.
Especially in an election year.
Especially in an election year. So in addition, Gascon also said that he would consider doing what the Boulder District Attorney, that is Boulder, Colorado, Stan Garnett, wrote a letter to the Fed saying, lay off our dispensary model in Colorado. Yeah. We can handle land use. We can take care of it. We don't need the Feds wasting their precious resources on something the local Boulder community is perfectly capable of doing. the local U.S. attorney basically sent him a thanks but no thanks response. In Colorado, they're telling dispensaries to move if they're within 1,000 feet of a school or a playground. They're not telling them that they can't reopen. They're just saying you've got to move. And I think part of the reason that they're being a little softer there than here has everything to do with the fact that Colorado can go blue or red pretty closely, whereas California, they're pretty confident will stay blue and vote for Obama, even if all of us decided to stay home and not vote.
Ron Paul.
Yeah. What else did Gascon say? He also said that he will defend medical marijuana and that he will make sure that his office is in sync with state law, current state law, the latest court decisions which we brought to his attention, like the Colvin case, which says that even if you are a member of a collective transporting medicine, you don't have to be cultivating it to be a part of the collective. That's a big decision. It hasn't been overruled yet by the California Supreme Court. And he also said that he would make sure that his office reflected the values of San Francisco. And that, to me, is a very clear sign. So we're going to hold his feet to the fire. Yes, in the back.
I wanted to know if you said anything about that delivery driver who was recently arrested.
Right. He said that due to attorney-client privileges, he could not talk about the case. We don't believe the charges have been dropped. I'm sure we will hear about that. It's been continued, so they're probably in the process of rewriting the brief and resubmitting that and deciding what they're going to do about it. I'm a little concerned about the amount of medicine this woman was transporting, but hopefully at least 2 pounds of bud, a severe amount of concentrates, and some edibles. It was a big delivery. I think way above the norm. So we'll hear and we'll let you know. That's why we have the AC email alert list. Please sit down, Juicy, right now.
We'll have general comment later.
Okay.
Lauren?
Please wait, Juicy.
Okay.
Thank
With
you.
regard to the guidelines that the DA will develop, I have had a district attorney here in San Francisco tell me that patients need to have state ID cards and not just a written letter of recommendation, which, as we know, is not the requirement, and that patient did have to go to court and waste their time and energy and get a dismissal. So I think we need a clarification in the district attorney's office that a letter of recommendation is what is required and not the state ID card.
Well, that will be certainly something we'll bring to his attention. And that's something to tell other, people who work in dispensaries. I've seen that. They say you need a state card. The state card is optional. All you need is a doctor's recommendation. Hopefully one that can be verified 24/7 in case you get busted on Friday night and don't want to spend the weekend in their hotel, so to speak. Okay, quickly.
I was on Gascony because, I'm a product of Terrence Hallinan. We went to the Million Marijuana March on him. He's the greatest DA in America. We would not have 18 states if it wasn't for Hallinan. The last these two DAs now, like you said, we don't have as much protection out here as we did. When Hallinan was there, you got a ticket at Powell Street with a pipe, and you get down there, they had threw that shit out of court. That was nothing, I know a guy who sold cookies, brownies out in Golden Gate. He went to court for 1.5 years for that, a duel. We want to make sure the DA knows that we want them to continue where Hallinan has brought us to now. Right. And those are some great footsteps. Even his father was here speaking. So we need to always know that the DA is very important. And Hallinan did take us to the Million Marijuana March, D.C., 99.
Thank you.
30,000 people out here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juicy.
Oh, Mikey was there.
Please.
Mike, 184 Church.
Okay.
All right, so we kind of skipped over number 5. I'll go back and do that real quick. So DPH, Department of Public Health, retreats on an advisory recommending the banning of concentrates from MCDs. You guys were at the last meeting also. We talked a little bit about how there had been some indication that DPH was going to issue a recommendation, a non-binding kind of guideline that dispensaries be a little bit more careful with their concentrates and possibly even not sell concentrates at all. Since then, they've gotten a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of meetings in City Hall, not just with us, but with the Board of Supervisors, including letters from people like David Campos and Scott Wiener, Christina